Hey, what's up, YouTube world? It is your girl here, the Venusian Bull, and I am back with another video. So what we're going to be doing in this series of videos is we're going to be discussing the planets in the 8th house. Yes, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this house. Anything that has to do with the 8th house, Scorpio, Plutonian things, people are always curious. People are always interested. They always want to see, the mystique of this energy. So we're going to be discussing planets in the 8th house, and I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently, as I'm going to have an introductory video to get through with all of like the kind of housekeeping details and everything that the 8th house contains, because I'm going to go very much into depth, pun intended, with the 8th house as it pertains to the planets and things like that. And I didn't want to have to say the same things over and over at the beginning of the video like I usually do, because it's a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that I'm going to be dropping on y'all. So yeah, there will be a description in the comment box of the actual timestamp of when I get to that planet in as it pertains to the 8th house. So don't worry, if you've seen 3 of these, you can skip through them if need be and go just straight to, sun in the 8th, Mars in the 8th, moon in the 8th, whatever. Okay. All right. So let's discuss the 8th house a little bit. Okay. So I also want to kind of put a trigger warning on these videos, because the 8th house deals with a lot of kind of taboo topics, the things that we don't really, want to discuss, the things that are buried beneath the surface and things like that, such as sex, such as death, anything that's taboo, and that could be deemed taboo or beneath the surface. That could even mean astrology or tarot or numerology or any type of occult like studies and mediumship, voodoo, hoodoo, all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to kind of like worshiping like ancestors and the dead and things like that. The 8th house has to deal with death, so we may be talking about demons and spirits and all of that type of stuff. So again, trigger warning. And this is the trauma house. A lot of the times I always say that Scorpio is the trauma queen, while Leo is the drama queen. So 8th house energy, there's always going to be some type of trauma that needs to be kind of overcome, but you're not going to escape drama. You're not going to escape trauma having 8th house energy. It's kind of inevitable that you will experience certain things. So I went through the basics: sex, death, anything that has to deal with trauma, transformation, regeneration. This is a very transformative placement. You're always changing, always transforming, and it's usually in major ways. This also has to deal with other people's money, as the 2nd house deals with earned income and money that you earn. The 8th house deals with other people's money. So this isn't necessarily money that you work for. This is money that you get from an inheritance, or like spousal support, or like child support, or like a life insurance policy, or something along those lines. And the 8th house also represents debt that you owe. So not only other people's money, but money that you owe to other people. So creditors, like bankruptcy, all of that stuff that we hate, really, right? I also like to think of the 8th house. The 8th house is kind of about turning trash into treasure. It's very much a purging thing. It's about, getting rid of garbage, and things like that, because Scorpio, which rules the 8th house, actually represents, for lack of a better word, excrement. You know what I'm saying? It represents, the waste out of your body. So it could be like literal waste or like figurative waste that you're kind of doing away with. And that kind of goes along with the transformative aspect of the 8th house. And as a reminder to keep in mind that you need to take account the sign that's on the 8th house cusp, as well as the aspects that the planet is making with any other planets in your chart, because this may modify the energy that you are experiencing in the 8th house. So make sure that you take heed of that. Sometimes I state this periodically in other videos, but I want to get this in the first video, the intro video, so that everybody knows that the characteristics that I state for the planet, that I'm speaking about may vary based off of other variables in your chart. So I want to make that very clear, especially when it comes to, the eighth house, because it's so transformative and it's so, intense, it's so in depth that it can mean so many different things. And speaking of intensity and depth, it has to deal with that. It has to deal with intimate bonds, close bonds. It's the next step up from the seventh house, which is like more like commitment and marriage. And the eighth house is that intimate bond that it's not a you and I, it's a we thing when it gets to the eighth house. So it's that as well. And it's, deep, it's about deep connections, and it's about researching, it's about investigating to get down to the bottom and the depths and, the oceans of things. This is a water house. So you have to remember this is an emotional house. People forget that Scorpio is a water sign sometimes, I think, and emotional, because their exterior can be so, you know what I'm saying? It could be very resting bitch face, but remember that this energy needs to feel deeply, like within the depths of their soul. They need to feel right down into their gut. So they need to feel deeply. This house may be prone to experiencing a lot of pain as well, pain and trauma. And usually, in a lot of instances, that's something that people who have this energy, they actually like. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to get into the planets in the eighth house. So all right, hey y'all, what's up? All right, so in this video, we are going to be discussing Pluto in the eighth house. We have finally reached the final video of the eighth house series. Woo! So we'll get to move on to something that's brighter and more fun and optimistic with the ninth house. So we'll be there very, very shortly, all right? So to kind of round out the eighth house, we're going to end with Pluto, of course. And Pluto rules the eighth house because Pluto rules Scorpio. So this is a very powerful placement. Whoo, this is like kind of giving me chills just thinking about Pluto in the eighth, right? All right. Oh, and another thing I wasn't mentioning about these planets, even if you don't have these placements natally, you still need to pay attention to these videos and watch all of the videos, because you never know, when a planet is going to be transiting the eighth house or whatever house I'm going to be speaking about. So because I'm talking about the eighth house right now, look and see if you have any planets transiting the eighth house as well. Don't just look for your individual placements. I stress that it's beneficial to watch all of the videos, because you're going to have transits happening in all of the houses at some point in the year. You know what I'm saying? Especially the moon. So, always pay attention to the transits and things, because it can still apply. All right. So having Pluto in the eighth is similar to having Pluto in Scorpio. Again, that's a generational placement. And also similar to having, obviously, Scorpio on the eighth house cusp. So if you happen to have, Pluto in the eighth house or Scorpio in the eighth house cusp, you're kind of like, doubling up on the scorpionic energy. So it's just compounded. You know what I'm saying? So, like I mentioned before, this is a very powerful placement. It's a very influential placement. And you know, it's kind of that like quiet power that you don't kind of realize is there, but people see it. People recognize people recognize it. People always recognize, strong Scorpio Plutonian energy. And this is something that's going to be very much recognized. Okay. So I can't talk about Pluto in the eighth house without talking about sex. This is just one of those placements that you cannot. So Pluto in the eighth house, definitely a very, very sexual person, just as most placements in the eighth house are. But Pluto, like, more so than any other planet. Like Pluto like literally represents the act of having sex. Like it like represents the orgasm, the orgasmic part of having sex and, intercourse and all of that type of stuff. So this is a very sexual person. This is someone who's very comfortable with their sexuality. This is definitely someone who's not afraid to express themselves sexually. This is someone who is definitely not afraid to talk about sex. Like, talking about sex is like talking about the weather. to somebody with Pluto in the eighth house. Like, oh yeah, like I had some steak for dinner. Do you want to do anal today? Like, I'm just saying. So be careful. The conversations that you may have with Pluto in the eighth house can be quite scandalous and taboo, but they're not going to be weird to the person with Pluto in the eighth house. I'm like, this is my everyday, like normal day. Like I talk about death. I talk about, this placement can be like, this is how I want it to be when I die. Like this is what I want it to be at my funeral. But Pluto in the eighth house is like not scared of death. They're not scared of death. They're not scared of anything that's taboo. Um, they can be quite fearless. And because they're so fearless, they kind of feel like they're untouchable. I will be honest, like Pluto in the eighth house, they can get away with a lot of shit, which is why they may dabble in criminal activity because they know that they can get away with it. They know they can be sly. They know they can be, manipulative. They know they can be undercover. And if push comes to shove, they'll blame somebody else because ain't nobody got time for that. Okay. So yeah, dark-sided Pluto in the eighth house can definitely be very manipulative. Definitely, like if you have this placement, be aware that you have a lot of power. You possess a lot of influence on people. You can definitely influence people. So try to use that in a positive way instead of like in a cultish kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So that you're not, bringing off that kind of demonic energy that a Pluto in the eighth house person can be rather. So yeah, definitely be aware of that, but definitely can be prone to criminal activity. And it's usually caused by a lot of trauma that happened in your life, particularly when you were young. That's a big theme of the eighth house, trauma. And Pluto in the eighth house could potentially have experienced the most trauma, just because there's so much heavy weight with this Plutonian energy in this house that it can be very draining and it can be very overwhelming. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for someone with Pluto in the eighth house just being completely off the wall and killing people and like molesting people or doing all kinds of crazy shit and taking advantage of people. I'm not trying to excuse that behavior at all. But what I will say is that if there's anybody with that placement that's doing all of those horrible things to people, this is somebody who is most likely abused in some type of way, neglected in some type of way, like really badly, like could really harshly abused. Like I would say like the worse the like criminal they are as they get older probably is in connection with how bad they were abused. So the more they were abused, probably the worse they'll be if they're headed in that kind of dark sided direction of Pluto in the eighth house. So, just be mindful of where that can take you. And if you know somebody close to you with this placement, just keep one eye open. Keep one eye open. Especially if you live with that person, but like on the plus side, Pluto in the eighth house can be very perceptive, very intuitive, very much about healing. They can be great, like motivational speakers, like I said before, because they've been through it, they've seen it all, they've been through the dark, through the depths of hell, and they were able to get out. You know what I'm saying? So that creates a really great, like motivational speaker and a really great counselor, a really great therapist that can, draw from personal experience without giving none of their shit away. Because remember, this is Pluto, this is privacy. You know what I'm saying? Therapists aren't supposed to tell their business anyway, but I'm just, I just want to reiterate the privacy aspect of Pluto or of the eighth house in general. So yeah, these could be like the ultimate, healers and things like that. This is definitely somebody who would definitely dabble in mediumship. psychic. Um, like they take things to the next level. It's not just astrology. It's not just tarot. It's like Neptune in the eighth kind of takes things to the next level. It's connecting with spirits, connecting with the dead, healing, just, with your hands or with your mind, you know what I'm saying? Being able to um just kind of look in someone's eyes and see right through them, see everything that you need to know about them to be able to, you know, help them with their journey or hurt them if you're being malicious. And Pluto in the eighth house can be malicious, but I'm trying to direct this energy into a positive direction. But I got to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? I got to give both sides. And because this is probably one of the most powerful placements for Pluto, aside from it being in the first house or maybe even the 10th house. This is one of the most powerful placements for Pluto in the eighth house. So you have to know how to wield your power for good and not just be evil, because you can have this placement and just be like downright evil. Like you could be like the devil, you know what I'm saying? And don't even have Saturn in the house too. Pluto and it's going to be hard to break away from that demon energy. But even just Pluto alone can be very troublesome, and it can be very evil. So, be careful of that. Again, with absorbing others' energy, and also with projecting your energy out, because um Pluto and Scorpio energy and stuff like that, they do a lot of projecting their energy outward, and you don't necessarily realize how you're coming off to others, and you think that you may be pleasant and things like that, but people are really getting a very negative vibe from you. So kind of check yourself before you wreck yourself, basically, but check yourself first, like, okay, am I in a bad mood today? Do I feel icky? Do I feel like I'm about to go and cuss somebody out? Do I feel like I'm about to go punch somebody in the face or something like that? Then I need to chill. You know what I'm saying? I need to, sometimes it just may be those situations where you may like, I just can't go to work today because I'm gonna just go off and I may get fired. You know what I'm saying? Or, you just can't go to that function because you just know, like, intuitively that something is gonna go down. Like, if you have those instincts, if you have those feelings, you have to follow them. And some people may not understand and stuff like that, except for, those really intuitive people in your life, those people that you let Um, in terms of your personal intimate bonds and things like that. But if you have any of those feelings and you know what they are, you know what it is, if you have that inkling, then you need to listen to that and not put yourself in a situation where the demon in you can come out, because I will say there's a demon inside of a Pluto in the eighth house, but it can be tamed. It can be tamed. There's like an evil spirit in there that can be tamed. You can't, on a kind of like a more lighthearted, funny example of this would be like the Nutty Professor, when, Professor Clump, he created Buddy, you know what I'm saying? And then he thought that that's what he wanted to be because Buddy was skinny and Professor Clump was fat and everything like that. But then, you know, Buddy ended up having his own mind. He couldn't control him. So, you're basically creating something that you think is going to help you. This is very, Pluto in the eighth house. You're like literally transforming into another person, and then you realize, oh, I can't control this energy. Like, I can't control this person on its own. But I actually, and in the second Nutty Professor, he started to lose, his intelligence because he, stripped Buddy away from him because, Buddy was giving him too many problems. But then he realized he actually needed Buddy, in order to, be coherent and to be, to maintain his intelligence, because he was a professor, he was a scientist, you know what I'm saying? He was an inventor and everything. So you kind of like, it's so weird, but that's kind of a light-hearted version, but you need that kind of evil dark energy, like, oh, eighth house energy needs that dark energy a little bit, but you have to be able to keep it at bay. You know, there's not really a time when you should really like let it full on out. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, sometimes, if people come at you, not necessarily you, but your family, your kids, anybody that you really love, that evil spirit it could come out. So you just have to be very careful. And I would say Pluto in the eighth house has the strongest desire to let that energy out. So that's why I'm kind of stressing that in this video, that it's there. You need to keep it there, but you got to keep it tamed. You know what I'm saying? You're not really going to be able to function if you let it go completely. You know what I'm saying? Also, another thing about Pluto in the eighth house, obviously, this person is very deep, very in depth. This is not a small talker type of energy. This is a researcher. This is someone who's trying to get down to the nitty gritty of things. This is someone, like I've said in many other videos, crime scene investigator, embalmer. This is somebody who's uh, dissection and kind of preoccupation with death can just be on a high. Like, you want to work in a funeral home, you want to be an embalmer, you want to be the person who does autopsies on people. You're kind of like obsessed with examining the dead and looking at organs of people when they're deceased and things like that. Be careful with this energy, because this energy also may want to be a doctor, particularly a surgeon, because Pluto represents surgery and surgical procedures. So this person could want to be, you know, anywhere from a plastic surgeon to a brain surgeon or something like that. But, you gotta be careful, because this energy, they really like cutting people, like they really like, blood, like they really like the act of it. On the dark side, seeing people in pain. On the light side, they really like to the ability to be able to heal through transformation. Like, I'm giving you a new heart, I'm giving you a new organ so that you can, so that you can live. They want to be able to like save people's lives. They want to be able to bring them back from the dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, on the light side. But just be careful of them dark sided Pluto in the eighth house energy, because yeah, they're not afraid of death for themselves or for you. This is definitely an energy that could be up to like self-mutilation. You know what I'm saying? Like cutting, you know what I'm saying? Just like not even just like piercings and tattoos, but actually like cutting themselves and, like mutilating their body. And to take it kind of back to the sex thing, they could go a little bit overboard with the BDSM and just like really like pain to a point where it's kind of like intolerable for most people. Like, if they're watching porn, they like the real like rough rough porn, you know what I'm saying? Also, you could be addicted to sex and kind of be like obsessed with sex. Is like this obsession with needing to feel that sensation, that orgasm, um and things like that, you know what I mean? And you need to be with people who understand your kind of broad sexual kind of placement. You know what yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be with like a normal kind of person who just does missionary, kind of like with Uranus in the eighth house. You kind of like taking it up a notch. But yeah, Pluto in the eighth, like, if you know somebody with this placement, you really need to be down for whatever. And if you're not, that's not the person for you. There's a lot of people who are very, experimental with sex, who love doing different things and stuff like that, and maybe, the porn industry may be where you find this type of person. But it may be very difficult for someone with Pluto in the eighth house to be sexually satisfied, because there's so many aspects about sex that are so taboo and so hidden and so beneath the surface that so many people are scared to explore, that side of themselves. And, it may be difficult for you to, find that person. So, um, you may resort to, um, prostitution or paying for prostitutes or being a gigolo, or wanting to get into the adult film industry so you can experience all of the facets of sex that you can't do with like regular ordinary people, sex parties, um uh yeah, like sex clubs, like all of that type of stuff, just all of the things that are like very taboo. Like Vegas probably would be a very nice place for somebody with Pluto in the eighth house to live, because it's like anything goes in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? You probably need to live somewhere where you can really like truly be able to, express yourself sexually and, freely and things like that, so you can really feel fulfilled. Because let me tell you something, a lot of that like criminality and that evil activity that you do, sometimes that could just be as a result of you not having enough sex. Like Pluto in the eighth house needs to have sex. Like it's vital to them being productive citizens in society. Like I just gotta call it a buck. Like you guys need sex. You need to release those endorphins. Like you need to release that energy. You need to release those fluids, so to speak. You can't keep anything bottled up. You know what I mean? Least of all orgasms, okay? Get that shit out. Find a way to release that. And sometimes it may not be in, the most ideal way. Hopefully you're masturbating instead of going out to pick up a prostitute, but sometimes I guess maybe you need to do that. But if you want something a little bit more, out there, not so typical or something like that, get a new crazy sex toy or something like that, or try a sex machine or something along those lines. Do something like that. You know what I'm saying? But you like every other placement I've stated in this house have to protect your energy, especially when it comes to who you have sex with, okay? And you, especially Pluto in the eighth house, you do have the ability to be able to control, because Pluto is all about control. You can control how you deal with these energies. If you have like the most control out of all of the placements in this house. Like you have the ability to kind of be with someone who is demonic, particularly when it comes to sex, but you can be like, I can have sex with this person, but I don't want that energy. I don't want that negative energy. I don't want that evil energy. So let me have the sex, but take away all the negative energy. Like you can put that out there in the universe so that you don't, you know, get that energy. You're just getting the sex. Kind of like sex without feelings type of thing. But you kind of have to um do the magic first. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, I don't know, say the incantation. I don't know what it is that you gotta do. I don't have this placement. So I don't have that inkling, but I feel like if you Pluto in the eighth house, you know how to separate this is just sex. This is why people with Pluto in the eighth house can be adult film stars. You know what I'm saying? And they can have sex with multiple people for money and things like that. And they can separate that from their personal soul and their own being. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a natural divide that happens, but you have to be able to utilize and wield that power, and Pluto in the eighth house has the most ability to be able to do that. Oh my God, there's so many other things I could say about this. Oh, you can acquire prominence, you can acquire a lot of money, you can meet a significant other that has a lot of money, that's very wealthy, because we're talking about other people's money. You can definitely inherit a lot of money through life insurance, property, all of those types of things. You can definitely be the killer as well in order to get said property. The interesting thing about it is that you like eighth house energy, except for maybe Mars, aren't the ones that are doing the dirty work when it comes to this said killing for the money, so to speak. Like, you always got somebody else doing your dirty work. You know what I'm saying? So that's something to think about. Like, your hands don't get dirty. It's very difficult for this energy to get caught. But yeah, I just wanted to get that in there about attracting wealthy people and attracting people with money. That's very possible for that to come and for you to be prominent. This is good for sex therapy. This is good for being a sexologist, and anything that requires like healing through sex, exploring your sexuality, and things of that nature. So I rambled on quite a bit. I felt like I was going to do that with Pluto in the eighth house because there's so much encompassing. And I'm already at 25 minutes just for this part of the video. And I didn't even, like, there's still more, but I don't want this video to get much longer. We have completed the planets in the eighth house series. We are going to be moving over to the ninth house. But if you do have this placement, Pluto in the eighth house, let me know if this resonated with you. Let me know what you think. I know I said a lot of things that may rub you the wrong way, but give me your 2 cents. Let me know again. All the time, if you're operating on the high vibration of any placement, there's not going to be this evil, demonic, or kind of negative vibes that are coming off of you. You can channel this power and this intuition and this energy into positive things and being able to help people. You can do that. So I want to stress that before y'all come for me in these comments, okay? But definitely talk amongst yourselves, comment, remember to like, comment and subscribe, share, tell a friend, okay? Let's grow this channel together. Pluto deals with collaboration, eighth house deals with collaboration. Let me help you, help me help you, okay? That didn't make any sense, but it's all right. All right, I will see you in the next video. Bye.